We're very glad you could join us this rainy afternoon. It's Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka. First set of Nigerian students evacuated from Sudan are now in transit to Cairo, Egypt. A former governorship aspirant of the All Progressives Grand Alliance in the 2023 elections has been found dead. Persons with disability canvass for appointments from incoming administration. Thank you for joining us. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyema, has disclosed that procuring 40 buses towards the evacuation of Nigerians has cost the government $1.2 million. Speaking with the press after the Federal Executive Council meeting, Mr. Onyema stated that the government will evacuate citizens within days in spite of the 72-hour ceasefire agreement in Sudan because it has concluded talks with the Sudanese government and they are on the same page. According to the ministry, no priority is accorded any diplomat, but the Nigerian mission will consider prioritizing women and children.
Hours after returning from a short official trip to Ghana, President Muhammadu Buhari chairs the Federal Executive Council meeting. Moments after the commencement of the meeting, the evacuation plans of the federal government in Sudan came into focus as the Minister of Foreign Affairs and his deputy gave update, affirming that no life has been lost.
We started the process and it'll take, maybe a couple of days to, evacuate everybody. 1.2 million is what we're being charged for the buses to the board. Million US dollars. Yeah, for the entire 40 huge transported luxury buses made available to us to transport to the Egyptian border. Of course, because of the risks involved and so many other things, a lot of people are going to also take advantage. They're going to hike up the price. We saw that the French convoy was attacked and so forth. So it was difficult procuring these buses, but we had to do it because, Nigerian lives matter.
The good news is that no Nigerian life has been lost so far. I think it's important to stress that all Nigerians are very safe.
The ministry adds that evacuation would continue even beyond the 72-hour ceasefire, making no mention of alternative plans for continued education for the evacuees, particularly students of Khartoum.
We have friendly nations that are ready to assist, so that we have it on record that the Saudi authorities have been able to, pick up some Nigerians and they're shipping them. Transporting them by ship, I guess, to Saudi Arabia, to Jeddah in particular, from where, of course, again, we'll link up and find a way of bringing them back from Jeddah.
Chairman of the Nigeria Diaspora Commission, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Erewa, had earlier posted a video indicating that Nigerian citizens in their thousands are being conveyed with the buses according to their state of origin, even as the ministry considers prioritizing women and children.
It would be appropriate that women should be given priority. Women and children should be given priority. I think that goes without saying.
As we speak, the evacuation of Nigerians have commenced and is fully underway. But what is unclear is the exact number of persons that have left the war-torn country or the exact number of days it would take to complete the process of evacuation. But what remains clear is the resilience of the federal government to evacuate all Nigerians who are willing to leave Sudan to safety. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
In the meantime, the evacuation of Nigerian students from war-ravaged Sudan has begun, with the first set transported in 13 buses already on their way to Cairo, Egypt. This is as the Nigerian mission in Sudan is receiving fresh evacuation requests from many more Nigerians stranded in that country. The chairperson of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Erewa, who confirmed this to Channels Television on our breakfast program Sunrise Daily, adds that there are opportunities for the students to continue their education back home. But more importantly, the students must arrive home safely first.
The journey is almost 28 hours if it's a straight journey. But in this case, they have to stop somewhere and all that. So we're hoping that they'll get into Aswan later this evening, but we're monitoring them. 13 buses left Khartoum yesterday from 2 universities, the African International University and I think Al-Khazar University. So 13 buses of about 60 people have already left, and by the grace of God, we're monitoring them and they're all good. I mean, it's not a very pleasant situation, but they also, mission officials are waiting for them at Aswan to receive them. And another set of buses, hopefully, when funds are released for them, because the transporters are insisting they want to collect their cash before they even load the next set of buses. So everything is being done by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, NEMA, to ensure that is done. So cheering news, no life has been lost, as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced yesterday, and our students are progressing to their destination in Aswan, Cairo. But so far, the Nigerian mission and the 3 missions are working together to ensure that our students are protected. Now, there's a little challenge. 3,500 students, yes, but Nigerians are now coming, without even any documentation to now say they want to come back. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. Perhaps when we get all our data right, Sudan will probably be one of the areas where we have our largest diaspora population. So the mission is now being bombarded with people that never registered, that never showed presence, that now coming and say, look, they want to come. And as you said, the 72 hours is lapsing. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of desperation. So in fact, yesterday in the evacuation, the mission was very strict, because people who never even showed up wanted to even chance the students. Some tried to jump into the window, so they had to stop a while and said, no, you have to be orderly. And they did it by now breaking them into various states with the list that they had. So let's just pray and hope that let's pray and hope that the ceasefire will become permanent season of fire. Who knows? There's been a lot of talks with the AU and the 2 warring factions, and there's nothing better than peace in all this situation.
Well, we'll return to that conversation later on the program. And in the meantime, the community of people living with disabilities is asking the president-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu, to appoint at least 1 person with disability into its cabinet after he is sworn into office on May the 29th this year. Speaking at a news conference in Abuja, the founder of TAF Africa, Mr. J.K. Pili, also appeals to state governors not to discriminate against people living with disabilities by appointing qualified individuals with disabilities into their cabinet.
With the end of 2023 general election and the emergence of elected individuals, an opportunity to drive disability inclusion and strengthen the political voices of persons with disability in Nigeria political process has been birthed. These elected individuals have a duty to entrench disability inclusion in their governance by making their political appointment disability inclusive. And I want to use this opportunity to call on the incoming government to ensure that at least 1 person with disability is appointed as the minister, a minister in the federal cabinet. And we want to also use this opportunity to call on governors to ensure the appointment of persons with disability as commissioners. We also want to encourage all elected individuals to prioritize the appointment of persons with disability who contested for position during the 2023 general election but could not make it at the polls. We wish to emphasize that political appointment of persons with disability should not be based just on their disability status, but on their capacity and competence to drive positive change in the political office, irrespective of their disability status.
To legal matters now, Justice Inyang Ekwo of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has dismissed the suit filed by the Adamawa governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Aisha Binani, seeking to be affirmed as the winner of the election. Justice Ekwo dismissed the suit following a notice of discontinuance that was filed by the plaintiff. Justice Ekwo had declined her application to strike out the suit, maintaining that the appropriate order was dismissal, since the court earlier directed the plaintiff to address it on the issue of jurisdiction. Senator Binani had approached the court with an ex parte application to stop INEC from announcing any other person as the winner of the Adamawa State gubernatorial election. She argued that INEC had no powers to cancel or declare a declaration which had been made as null and void. Let's continue this conversation as I welcome Cynthia Mbamalu. She's the Director of Programs, YAGA Africa. Thank you for joining us on Lunchtime Politics.
Thank you and good afternoon.
Indeed. Let me start by asking you to react to the dismissal of the APC governorship candidate's suit in which she sought to be declared as the winner of the Adamawa governorship election. And while you're doing that, perhaps how this entire Adamawa governorship drama will impact on the aspiration of women into elective positions.
Thank you. I think it's important to understand what is going on. Post the Adamawa supplementary elections. And based on the reports the reports around the dismissal of the suit, it's indicated that the plaintiff did apply to withdraw the suit, which initially was, I think they were seeking for an ex parte order to stop the declaration of the result and also asking for judicial review of the administrative decision by the Electoral Commission at the time. I would say that a lot of things has happened post that case was filed in court. And at this moment, it's important that different parties understand that due process and rule of law ought to be upheld in this case. INEC has finally concluded the process in Adamawa. And if the candidates of the All Progressives Congress is not satisfied with the decision of or the outcome of the elections, the law provides that the candidate has a right to go to court to challenge the decision or the outcome of the elections. And so we'll wait to see that. The dismissal for me, it's not something we need to start debating around. What is most important from the learning from Adamawa is conversations around the issues of competency, issues around neutrality of individuals appointed into the commission at both the national and state level. And because Adamawa supplementary elections played out, but it was more or less building on already existing challenge with the issues around the independence of individuals who get into the commission. Because beyond just the Adamawa supplementary elections, there are also reports around the likelihood that officials of the commission at the general, both the presidential and governorship elections may have compromised in one way or the other or were complicit in some of the incidents that happened during the particular elections. And so post these elections, we need a better audited report on the conduct of the elections by INEC. One, identifying officials of the commission, either at the leadership level at the states, INEC, that's the resident electoral commissioners, or even at the national leadership, who were either compromised, who were complicit, or who aided any level of malpractice or fraudulent activities in the elections to be held accountable. That's one point, because it's beyond just the wreck in Adamawa State. I do believe that further investigation would also reveal that there are other individuals that should be held accountable in the conduct of the general elections totally. The other part is also the conversation around the question of independence, or rather the mode of appointment of people into the national leadership of the commission and the state leadership of the commission. Perhaps it's also time for us to review that mode of appointment, because while the Constitution was clear that the appointment of members of, be it the national commissioners, the chair of the commission, or the resident electoral commissioners, appointment must be based on individuals who are non-partisan, individuals who have unquestionable integrity. The Constitution is clear
Indeed,
on that
Cynthia,
requirement. But if you follow the event leading to the appointment,
that's another huge lesson,
it's raised
Cynthia.
questions.
If I may come in there, but let's look at the gender lessons. Part of the conversation is to the effect that some were saying that because she's a woman, she's being victimized, or she was being intimidated. So what lessons can female aspirants learn from this experience, if you agree with that part of the debate?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say I agree with that. I would say first is the politics. Politics in Nigeria is always viewed as a do-or-die affair, and there's a lot of desperation on the part of political actors in the space to win elections at all costs. And so there may be gender dynamics to whatever happened in Adamawa. However, because there are clearly laid down rules in the Electoral Act, I would want to trade on the part of the law that in Adamawa there was a breach of procedure. The Electoral Act was clear on who had powers to declare winners. So regardless of the sex of the participant in that particular action, I would want to focus on what the law says and the fact that the rules of the games were breached in the declaration of result. However, the conversation around gender for me, because there have been different sides of the conversation. One is, oh, a woman is being desperate to win at all costs. We forget that we have politicians forcing their ways into office who, in our history, consistently, every state you have male politicians forcing their ways into the office, imposing themselves on the people of respective states and occupying offices in those states. And so it's beyond gender for me. It's more around the character of politics in Nigeria and around the disregard of rule of law when it comes to elections. And so regardless of her sex, I do believe that the focus for this conversation should be around the legality of the process. However, in the broader conversation is also the question around how clean and transparent the process is to ensure that candidates, regardless of their sex, would have an equal opportunity to contest and win elections. But this for me is beyond Adamawa. It's a major conversation around the legislative process, rather having a legal framework that enables women emergence. If we limit this to gender, would restrict ourselves to conversation outside the law. And I do believe that for Adamawa instance, let's focus on the legality of the process,
and we hope
regardless
that
of gender, and then have a broader conversation on the role of women.
Yeah, and we hope that the president will be set with the prosecution of erring officers in that procedure. Speaking of president, the president-elect in his manifesto promised to work with the National Assembly to pass a law to increase women participation to at least 35%, in line with the 35% affirmative action. But we know that promises have been made in the past. But more realistically, what are the opportunities available to women groups to ensure that the incoming administration implements this manifesto to the letter or to a significant extent?
I think for women groups, and I know the manifesto platform released a statement making demands on the need for women inclusion in government, especially when it comes to the appointments, because once the president-elect is inaugurated and assumes office, there will be appointment into the Federal Executive Council, and it's important that for the conversation around appointments, that the 35% affirmative action, as stated in the national gender policies, adhered to. So that there is that women are already organizing and making demands, and it's beyond just women. I think for Nigeria, we need to look at the issues around gender inclusion as a national conversation, because we're faring poorly when it comes to women inclusion for a country with a vast number of women with capacity and competence. However, there was a court decision, if you remember, pre-2019 elections, that did affirm that the appointments that do not have women is discriminatory and is against the constitutional provisions of equality and also the gender policy. So there is already a court decision that, to my knowledge, has not been overturned. A court decision mandating that appointments into appointive positions at the federal and state level must adhere to the national gender policy in the spirit of the Constitution. And so there is also a court decision that mandates the new president or the incoming president to adhere to the affirmative action principle. And if the president fails to appoint 35% women into the national, into both national appointive offices and for the governors at the state level, they will be acting in breach of the court decision and also in breach of our national gender policies. Several opportunities abound. We have the National Assembly, 10th Assembly, will soon be constituted. And the demand is that for the election to the Senate President, the Deputy, and the Speaker and the Deputy, that a woman should be appointed into those positions, rather elected into those positions, because we do have women who are ranking members who won the elections in the House of Representatives and even in the Senate. So those considerations should be taken, rather gender considerations should be part of the decisions when it comes to election of members into the leadership of the National Assembly. Also in committees will be set up for either special duties or general duties. It's important that important committees that would make decisions on developmental issues have women as occupying leadership positions in those committees. Why is this important? The more we keep gender or women out of decision makings, the slower our pace in achieving development in Nigeria. And I think it's important that for the National Assembly, as principal officers are elected, that women are considered in those elections.
Indeed,
while
Cynthia,
for the appointive offices,
human development
we can no longer go below 35% women appointed into the into the Federal Executive Council.
Indeed, Cynthia, and there are human development indexes to prove, some of the things that you have said. And speaking of that court action, the current administration has appealed it. We hope that it's not, a testament to the disposition of the incoming administration. But we'd like to thank you very much for being on the program. Cynthia Malu is the Director of Programs at APGA Africa. Thank you very much for being on Lunchtime Politics.
Thank you.
A former governorship aspirant of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA, in Enugu State, in the just concluded elections, engineer Dons Ude, who was declared missing, has been found dead. Mr. Ude, who went missing since Saturday, was found lying lifeless at the 9th Mile area of Enugu State. According to a family source, his vehicle and phone had been recovered long before yesterday, but the police are yet to make any official statement on the incident. And I will return to our conversation on the evacuation of Nigerian students from Sudan, as we have Yusufa Omar. He joins us from Sudan, I believe. He's a student of the International University of Sudan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Really, I personally that I'm here. My name is Muhammad Jamil Abugafar. I'm the worldwide coordinator for Forum of Nigerian Muslims Women Abroad, which we have over 50 people available now in Sudan among our rescue team, and we are working seriously and tediously to make everything be in order. So I can tell you vividly that we have people available, though we appreciate and we can say double Gov'ship to the President of Federation and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, including the Ambassador for Sudan. All of them, they have done very, very great work. And in fact, I can tell you categorically that the situation before and now, if we compare it with situation on ground now, we can see some improvement. But still, there is need for some kind of adjustment. When people are facing this kind of challenge, in war zone, there used to be panicking and some kind of terrible situation. As people are hearing, they have been hearing this noise here and there, that the Nigerian government will come up to take care of them, take them to nearby country, which is I think Nigerian government prefer Egypt to evacuate them. But since then, they've paid, and we all have seen it through Minister for Foreign Affairs. And in fact, they have done very well by paying about.
Thank you, Mr. Jamali. Sorry, I missed out on your name, your correct name initially. Mr. Jamali, thank you very much. But first of all, perhaps if you can give us an update on the situation in campuses, the African International University campus, and there's another university also in Khartoum. Has the population of students begun to diminish? How many more buses have left with students en route to Aswan in Egypt?
Initially, 8 buses were available yesterday. So later, another 2 came, making it around 10. So in fact, but after that, most of people in the campus, if you can, I have some video here, because when reach certain stage, the females with their children, they were crying seriously and bitterly, up to the stage that we cannot bear it. From across the world, we have to call a lot of people, and the situation is so pathetic. They are all crying seriously and bitterly. Even on the platform, most of them are causing themselves, are regretting their availability in that particular place. Though Nigeria government happened to say it that they have paid for about 40 buses, but about 10 happen to be available. They said they have contacted the rest of them, but the problem on ground is that most of those people, those buses are owned by by Sudanese. They said they want to carry some of their people to nearby states where there is no war, and some other challenges. Part of the challenges they are facing around there is that they also said that they cannot, according to what we people hear from them, they said that the owner of those buses, I mean the transport companies, they said they cannot they cannot bring all their buses at a time, because in those areas are just known as war zone. So anything can happen at any time. That means they are releasing buses little by little. But our people here over there, they are crying seriously, including the wife and children. Even we have 2 weeks old of a baby that is still there.
And we hope that the situation improves. There are also reports, Mr. Jamali, that some Nigerian students are embarking on journeys on their own, which can be dangerous. Can you confirm that you're indeed receiving such reports?
Yes, of course. I received message from one of our rescue team this morning, and also from the person himself. He sent us message and he snapped the embassy, Nigeria embassy in Ethiopia. He snapped it and sent it to us. That I'm now at Nigerian embassy at Ethiopia. They are very nice, this and that. Though we have our brief release on behalf of my Forum of Nigerian Muslim Women Abroad that no students or anybody or Nigerian should go through Ethiopia, based on the recommendation of Honorable Abike Dabiri, the chairperson of
all right, Mr. Jamali, we're totally out of time. We hope that those journeys are without incident and they get to safety, and we hope that you stay safe as well. Thank you very much for your time on Lunchtime Politics.
Thank you.
And that's our offer today on the program. Thank you so much for watching. Join us again same time tomorrow when we bring you another edition. I am Bukola Koka.